The city lights twinkled 43 floors below as Victoria Sterling sat in her leather executive chair, pretending to sleep in her corner office. At 51, she had built Sterling Enterprises from a small startup into a global corporation. But tonight, she was conducting the most important test of her career. Earlier that evening, Victoria had overheard something that troubled her deeply. Two board members had been discussing the company's night cleaning staff, particularly questioning whether the janitors could be trusted around sensitive company information and valuable office equipment. Especially that Martinez fellow, one had said. He brings his kids sometimes. Who knows what they might get into? Victoria had worked late countless nights and often saw Carlos Martinez, a quiet man in his 40s who took pride in his work. She'd noticed he occasionally brought his 10-year-old son Tommy when childcare arrangements fell through. The boy always sat quietly in the break room, doing homework while his father worked, but Victoria realized she'd never really observed. What happened when they thought no one was watching, so tonight, she'd decided to find out for herself. Carlos had been cleaning offices for Sterling Enterprises for 6 years now. After his wife Maria had passed away from pneumonia 3 years ago, he'd taken extra shifts to support Tommy and save for his son's education. Every night. Carlos took pride in leaving each office spotless, knowing that his work mattered. Tonight was one of those nights when Mrs. Patterson couldn't watch Tommy. The 10-year-old sat patiently in the break room, his math workbook spread across the small table, occasionally glancing up at the city lights that seemed to stretch forever. Around 9:30, Tommy finished his homework and quietly walked down the hallway to find his father. He could hear the soft sound of vacuuming from one of the offices. But as he passed the corner office with the big windows, something made him stop. Through the slightly open door, Tommy could see a woman in a business suit slumped in her chair, her head tilted to one side. She looked uncomfortable and very tired. Tommy had been taught by his father that when someone needed help, you helped them. It didn't matter if they were rich or poor, young or old. "We take care of each other, mijo," Carlos always said. "That's what good people do." The boy hesitated for just a moment. He'd been told never to disturb the office workers, but this felt different. This felt like someone might need help. Victoria, through barely opened eyes, watched as the small figure approached her chair. Her heart began to race. What was this child planning to do? Were the board members right to be suspicious? But what happened next would change everything Victoria thought she knew about character and trust. Tommy gently approached, moving with the careful quietness his father had taught him in these hallways. Instead of touching anything valuable or snooping through papers, the boy did something completely unexpected. He noticed that Victoria's suit jacket had slipped down, leaving her arms exposed to the air conditioning that always ran cold in the building at night. Without hesitation, Tommy carefully, quietly, adjusted her jacket back over her shoulders. His small hands moved with the gentle care of a child who understood kindness. Then, noticing her position looked uncomfortable, Tommy looked around the office. He spotted a small decorative pillow on the nearby sofa. Moving with the same careful attention, he placed it gently behind Victoria's head, making sure not to wake her. Victoria's throat tightened with emotion. This child, who had every right to resent the wealth surrounding him while he and his father worked so hard for so little, had seen someone who looked uncomfortable and had acted purely out of compassion. But Tommy wasn't finished. From his pocket, he pulled out a piece of paper and a pencil. In his careful 10-year-old handwriting, he wrote a simple note. "Dear lady, you look tired and cold. I hope you feel better when you wake up. My dad says sleep is important for grown-ups who work hard." A friend. He placed the note carefully on the desk where she would see it, then tiptoed quietly toward the door. Just before leaving, Tommy paused and looked back. He walked to Victoria's desk and turned off the bright desk lamp that was shining directly on her face, leaving only the softer ambient lighting from the city outside. As his footsteps faded down the hallway, Victoria sat in stunned silence. Tears, real tears, rolled down her cheeks as she read the note written in careful block letters. This child, whose father cleaned her offices every night, had treated her with more genuine care and thoughtfulness than some of her own executives had shown in years. 20 minutes later, when Carlos discovered his son was missing from the break room, panic filled his voice as he called out, "Tommy, Tommy, ¿dónde estás?" Victoria emerged from her office, the note still in her hand. "Carlos, it's—" "All right, Tommy is fine." Carlos rushed toward her, his face filled with worry. "Mrs. Sterling, I'm so sorry. Tommy knows he's not supposed to bother anyone. I'll make sure—" "Carlos," Victoria interrupted gently. "Stop, please." She showed him the note. "Your son, he thought I was sleeping. He made sure I was comfortable. He was incredibly kind." Carlos read the note, his eyes filling with pride and relief. "Tommy's mother. She always taught him to look after people. She said kindness doesn't cost anything, but it's worth everything." Victoria nodded, understanding flooding through her. "She was a wise woman, and you've raised an exceptional young man." Over the following weeks, things changed at Sterling Enterprises. Victoria implemented new policies, better benefits for all employees, and a scholarship program for employees' children. But most importantly, she had learned something invaluable about the true nature of character. Character wasn't about expensive clothes or corner offices. It wasn't about education or social status. Character was about what you did when you thought no one was watching, about how you treated others when there was nothing to be gained. A 10-year-old boy had taught her that the most important values, compassion, kindness, genuine care for others, couldn't be bought or sold. They were gifts that came from the heart. And sometimes, the greatest teachers come in the smallest packages, carrying lessons that no business school could ever provide. Years later, Victoria would keep that note in her desk drawer. Whenever the pressures of business threatened to make her forget what really mattered, she would read Tommy's words and remember that true success isn't measured by what we accumulate, but by how much kindness we leave behind. Sometimes, the most profound lessons come from the purest hearts. And sometimes, a child's simple act of compassion can remind us all of what it truly means to be human.